Finally, we're at Saturn, the easiest planet to work with, the easiest planet to actually do correctly. However, it's also the most maligned planet, and we really don't give his virtues enough respect. In Brihat Parashara, he gives the descriptions of all the planets, and he lists Saturn virtues just like all the other planets. So the Sun, he says, is intelligent. Mercury is, full of good jokes and things like this. They give all the virtues of the planets. And when he gets to Saturn, he keeps on doing the same thing, and he gives the virtues of Saturn. He's dull-minded. He's lazy. He's lame. These are virtues of Saturn, okay? But the minute we read them, we start criticizing Saturn, because our conditioned mind says it's wrong to be dull-minded. It's wrong to be lame. It's wrong to be lazy. But it's really not. It's right to be all those things in the right time. And a healthy Saturn, like any other planet that's healthy, is in the habit of doing the right thing for the right occasion. Okay? Bad habits are doing the same thing for all occasions, right? And that doesn't work. The only good habit is the adaptability to do the right thing at the right time, which means you're constantly doing different things. The thing that the situation merits. Okay? So when we think of Saturn and we recognize that these are the virtues of Saturn rather than criticisms of Saturn, there's time to be these things. There's times to not think about something, to be dull-minded. There's times to be lazy and not do something, And there's times we're lame, which means we need to rest and recuperate. And what Saturn's really all about, it's all about not wasting energy. Remember, Venus is Virya, right? It's the vital energy. When you run out of that base energy, it's all over, you die. Okay? Saturn's exalted in Venus' sign. Saturn and Venus are mutually good friends to each other. They like each other, they help each other. And one of the ways Saturn helps Venus is by not wasting energy, by resting, by not acting, by not thinking, by not talking. All these things take energy. And it's such a foolish thing to use energy on something that's not going to go forward, isn't it? We have this expression that captures the idea of a bad habit, Saturn. Beating a dead horse. It's this idea that the horse is dead. It ain't going to carry you anymore, but you're still sitting on it and smacking it with the reins and digging your spurs into it, hoping to get that dead horse to move up the road. But all you're doing is you're wasting energy where you can walk up the road yourself, because the horse isn't going to carry you anymore, it's dead. That's the bad Saturn. There's a time where things just aren't going to produce anymore. And trying to get more out of them is a waste of energy. It's a waste of your vitality. It shortens your life. Saturn's all about saving energy. He's like, Saturn's longevity. A good Saturn, you live longer. Why? Because you waste less energy. So the idea of Saturn is there's times where we just need to conserve energy, because putting energy out won't do us any good. Okay, that's a good habit, Saturn. Knowing when to conserve our energy. Knowing when not to waste our energy. Knowing when there's nothing we can do, so we stop trying. Okay? Yogananda had a good Saturn. He had a great Saturn, actually. And one of the things he's taught was, when you're having a bad day, just go to sleep. Chances are when you wake up, it'll all feel better. It'll all be better. And it's true. It really, really works. I mean, what a suggestion from a guru. Gurus are like, oh, no matter what happens, tackle it. Yogananda's like, sometimes it's just time to use your Saturn. Go to bed. Go to sleep. What can you do, right? So that's a sign of a good Saturn. When there's nothing further can be done, and you just go to sleep. You just drop it. And you don't think about it. You get dull-minded. You don't try to do it. You get lazy about it. There's very, very appropriate times for doing Saturn. And the amount of energy we waste beating those dead horses in our lives, trying to squeeze lemons that have no more juice in them, it's like the things we do that just aren't giving anything more back, and we keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. Well, you can see why Saturn is one of the planets, when it's in bad shape, does contribute to insanity, right? because it's no sense to it to keep trying to squeeze a lemon that has no juice in it, right? So when the lemon has no juice, we drop it. Okay, that's a healthy Saturn. Now, Saturn, on the list of things it represents, I'm going to start with the bodily power. It's the power of excretion, which is the idea of excreting what's not necessary out of your system. And that power is primary centered. The majority of that power is in the anus, where you excrete your poop. Okay? So, Saturn is basically when you take a dump. Okay? You're going to go poop, which means you've gotten everything good out of something, and now you're getting rid of the residue. You don't need it anymore. Because everything you've needed, you've dredged out of it. It's the same idea. You squeeze that lemon if there's no more lemon. And then you throw the lemon in the peel, in the trash or the compost, which is Saturn. Same as your food. You eat your food, and after your body has gotten everything out of it it can, it poops it out. And you don't even think about it. You don't even think about that lemon peel. Okay? But, wow, the things in our lives that aren't giving us anything back, if you're having a bad habit, Saturn, that you keep trying to squeeze, that you won't let go of, that you won't leave behind you, I'm pointing at my butt, behind you as a poop, are really shocking sometimes, and it becomes a huge waste of energy. What's really important to understand is that life and feeling good has nothing to do with what you have in your life. It has to do with your energy. If your energy is really super low, you're going to just be depressed. It's just what's going to happen. Okay? If your energy is super low, you just won't be able to move forward. Life is about energy. Life is energy. So if you're full of energy, you're going to be happier. I mean, look at kids. They're running around being crazy. Why? Because they're so full of energy, right? It's a rare kid that gets depressed. They get sad for a moment, right? When they don't get something. But wow, then that energy takes over and they're jumping all over the furniture again. Okay? So, life is energy. Life is about energy. A lot of our reasons we don't enjoy our life is just because we're devitalized. We're low on juice. Because on some planet, we're wasting our energy or misusing our energy. When it comes to Saturn, that's the planet where, if it's in a bad habit, we're really wasting our energy. Okay? Because we're literally trying to make something happen. We're trying to eat our shit. We're trying to get nutrition out of what has no nutrition left for us. We're trying to get an experience out of something that we've dredged every experience we're going to get out of it. Okay? Now, Saturn works in cycles. When I say we're trying to dredge an experience out of it that all the experiences have been dredged out of it, I'm saying in that moment. Maybe in a week, a day, an hour, that thing will be able to have new experiences for you to experience with it. But there's always a time where something ends. It either ends for the day, the minute, the year, the month, and even the lifetime. Sometimes things end for a lifetime. But things are always ending, which means there's nothing left to get out of it at that moment. And how long will that moment continue? Who knows? Okay? Maybe just a moment, maybe a lifetime. Anywhere between those 2 points, okay? But all things come to where something else has to be done, therefore something else has to end. Okay? A bad habit, Saturn, sees things as endings. Like, oh no, when this ends, I see black. Okay, there's nothing. When people say, if I lose this job, I'll have nothing. If I lose my money, I'll have nothing. I lost my dog and I have nothing. This person left me and I have nothing. When people say that, that's a bad Saturn. A good Saturn says, I lost that, maybe, but instead of feeling that way, what they feel is the opposite end of Saturn, which is all the possibilities. Because really, all an ending is a door to other possibilities. Okay? So a bad habit, Saturn people need to get in the habit of seeing things that end as doors opening to other experiences of the world, or in the world. Okay? Because that's really what's happening. One door closes, another door opens. You only can carry so much in your hands. If you're carrying around silver coins, you're never going to be able to pick up any other type of coin until you put the silver ones down, or spend them, right? Okay? So by letting go of things, it creates a space for more things to happen. When you go poop, it creates the space in your abdomen for more nourishing food to enter your system. People who are constipated don't want to eat. It doesn't feel good to eat when you're constipated and bloated and swollen already, right? Where's the food going to go? You know? So, the good habit Saturn lets go of things. It's happy to let go of things because it knows new things are coming. Excretion. People with bad habit Saturn have problems with excreting, with pushing out the things that are no longer needed in their body out. And that's particularly seen as, as constipation, but it can be also an excreting through other areas of their body. Like the skin is constantly trying to excrete toxins and things like that, the things we don't need. So this idea of excretion is, I think, one of the most important ideas of Saturn. It's letting go of what's not going to support us now. Now let's think of this idea of going out and pooping, okay? Every animal goes out there, eats its food, and gets what it needs out of it and poops. And what it poops out nourishes the soil. It's the best fertilizer, Saturn, right? And as a result of that, new things grow. And then the next year and the years thereafter, there's more food for that animal to eat. So excretion is not an end. It's a change in the cycle. See, when they poop out those raspberries they ate, that animal, it's ensuring that there'll be more raspberries to eat in the future. Okay? It's a cyclic thing. When we let go of things, we ensure that the future will progress, that we'll be able to get more of that thing. Okay? When you let things end, you give a chance for those things to reconnect. Okay? Like, let's say you never wanted Christmas to end, right? And so, you know how kids sometimes, they just don't want Christmas to end, you know? Or they don't want the trip to Disneyland to end, you know? We go on have these events that are so exciting, you know? And we're having so much fun and we never want it to end. But imagine if it didn't ever end. And you were stuck in Christmas or stuck at Disneyland, you know? You would never get the joy of seeing Disneyland again. You know, that first joy of, wow, it feels great to be in Disneyland. It's so nice to see things come back again. I know when I look at Jupiter and Saturn, which are kind of together the last couple of years, so you can see them both up in the sky at the same time. And the last couple of years have been such great experiences in looking at Jupiter and Saturn with high-powered telescopes. And they're up there for about 6 months of the year, and then you know, you have to wake up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. to see them. But, so half the year they're visible when I'm awake, half the year they're not visible when I'm awake. And every year it's like, all right, there goes Jupiter and Saturn. It's going to be 6 months before we see them again. And wow, in 6 months when they come back, it is such a nice feeling to see them again. It's like these old friends returning home. It's this whole new excitement of, wow, I can't believe how awesome Jupiter and Saturn was. Whereas after they've been up for a few months, it's like, okay, yeah, it's pretty cool, it's really great, because you're used to it. And so the fact that they leave for 6 months, and then they come back, it's like this whole new thrill. Every time it feels like seeing them all over again. So see, by knowing when to let things rest, by letting things end when it's time for them to end, to go do something else when one thing ends, realizing that an ending is just an opportunity to do something else new, have a different experience now, and that ending experience will come around again. They so often come around again. But a bad Saturn doesn't experience that. They experience it's the doom and gloom of just black termination ending. And there's not this excitement of looking forward to it again. There's not this inner knowing that this ending is going to be replaced by a better experience. It's not even a better experience. It can be the same experience after a break, and then it feels better. You're refreshed to that experience. Because we get dulled out by any experience. We only can take so much of anything before our senses go, I need a rest. even happiness. You only could take so much like excitement and happiness before you're like, wait a minute, I need a rest here, you know? And if you don't rest, you can't enjoy that thing again. So it's so important to be lazy, not do something, go to sleep, take a break, let things go, say goodbyes, so that things can come around. And if that very thing doesn't come around, something else will take its place, whatever experience you need to know. But so much of what Saturn is, it really is letting go of the poop. That means you've gotten everything you need out of this situation. You're not going to make any more progress in this job, no more meaningful progress. So it's time to quit. And so often we have trouble because we don't get the inner knowing of it's time to quit. See, there's the inner knowing of saying, yes, I want this. Or no, that's not right for me. You know, there's the inner knowing of what we let into our lives. But there's also the inner knowing of knowing when to stop. Just to stop doing something in our life. Because there's an inner knowing to that too. You know, just as an illustration of that, you know, our inner knowing is communicating with us all the time. It's just unfortunately we're not listening to it. Okay? And I remember a few months ago a friend called me, they were having some issues. So we talked for like half an hour and I was doing a reading with them and it was working really well. Everything was going well. Then all of a sudden, I got this feeling inside of me that said, stop, you're done. You're done here, it's over. But there are still things to say. Like my mind still knew that, oh my God, this person needs some extra help here, okay? And so instead of listening to that feeling of, it's done, which was really obvious to me, I said, no, I really want to help this person. I think if I can help them some more, it'll really make a big difference for them, okay? So then I initiated that part of the reading, okay? And maybe they partially initiated and made me think that, but I was getting the inner voice was saying, fini, done. But I kept doing a reading. Half an hour later, I was super frustrated at them, you know? I was like, this person doesn't listen, you know? And I had to laugh at myself that because my inner voice knew at that point that there was nothing left to be done in that reading. There was no more helping that person. And yeah, my mind, it could see ways that that person needed to know this and could benefit from this. But the reality is they couldn't. It could have, my inner voice would have said, okay, now, yes, do ask them that thing. Or, yes, do answer their next question, you know. There's a point to stop everything. And if we get sensitive to when it's time to say, all right, it's done for now, the amount of trouble we can save ourselves. Because the minute we go beyond that point, things do start going wrong. So our inner guidance system is not only telling us what to do, it's also telling us the big thing of when to stop. Okay? But if Saturn's in bad shape, there's a part of a person that doesn't ever want to stop. They just don't give up. They don't let go. You know, it blows me away the stubbornness of a difficult Saturn, you know. I think Saturn is considered to be the sort of stubborn planet, like he can just be really stuck in a way. But it's the bad Saturns, the bad habit Saturn that just, you know, won't give up that bone, just will not stop something, even after it's clear that nothing else can be done. They're still going to waste energy trying to do something with that. Or, you know, it's obvious that, you know, they can't make progress, but then they still try to make progress. Where everyone else can be watching going, it's time to quit here. And the waste of energy when they can just move on to that next experience that's waiting them, the next energizing experience, the next experience that can be fulfilling. Okay? All experiences end. Not all experiences are going to end the way you want them to. But you have to realize that all experiences that are ending that you try to continue will slap you in the face, will backfire on you. Okay? It doesn't work. Okay? Now, the deity, the primary deity of Saturn is Yama, for the purpose of this course, which is death. Okay, when something's dead, what do? You stop doing it. You don't beat the dead horse. You don't talk to the dead person. You know, you let the dead go, and you continue living. That's a good habit Saturn. But a bad habit Saturn doesn't see any other thing. So they keep talking to the dead. They keep wishing for that thing that is gone. They keep longing for that thing that is gone. Okay? Things leave because they're no longer necessary for us. And that's really hard sometimes. Some of the biggest, most difficult transformations are when our loved ones die, our parents die, people we're attached to die. But they die because there's a part of you that's ready to rise to the occasion of living without them. But a bad Saturn doesn't see it that way. A bad Saturn sees it as the end, the blackness, the bleakness of, the desert. There's nothing there anymore for them. It's never like that. There's only, all you have in your life is space. And when it's filled with one thing, it's filled because you need the experience of that thing. When it leaves, it's because you need the experience of something else. God isn't screwing around with us. But if we have a bad Saturn, it'll feel like God is just, screwing around with us, giving us this and taking away just to tease us. No, there's a purpose to it all. A person with the good habit Saturn is more attuned to that part. They're in the habit of appreciating space opening, doors opening, opportunities opening, even in the face of huge loss. Okay? And it's the natural understanding, being in the habit of understanding the harsh realities of life. One of the most shocking things to modern culture is how death is almost considered an unnatural thing. In primitive cultures, death was a natural process. There's just this, it's just natural. It's like the most natural thing. There's nothing more natural than death. Nothing. It's the one thing that's natural to all beings, to all creatures, to all things, is death. What's natural to me, what's natural to a deer is very different. The common factor between me and the deer is death. The only common factor between all things is death. Therefore, it's the most natural thing. Yeah, wow, does our culture treat death as this abnormality? Oh my gosh, somebody died in America. Oh, shocking. Wow, how could that be? Duh, it happens, So, embracing the naturalness of life is accepting the fact that death is. And a good habit Saturn understands that. They're not as shocked by that. So why would a person have a bad habit Saturn? It's the most natural thing for things to end. It's the most natural thing that no matter what we're engaged in, no matter how wonderful it is, eventually it becomes too much and we have to take a break from it. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be the thing you've longed for the most in your entire life. And you're going to have to take a break from that thing eventually. Why is it hard to do this simple thing, just to stop? Because that's all Saturn's saying is, it's time to stop. Just stop. There's lots of reasons we don't stop. One reason is we have self-esteem issues, that we have to keep proving ourselves. So even in the face of defeat, we won't stop. Even in the face of no progress is going to be made here, we won't stop. Because there's this need to prove ourselves. There's a trauma inside of ourselves that forces us to have to prove ourselves against all odds, even to the point of ruining our lives. That's not the wisdom of Saturn. Okay, the wisdom of Saturn is saying, it's time to do nothing, therefore that's what I'm going to do. It's the easiest planet to do. What's easier to do than to do nothing? What's easier to do than just go to bed, right? All these other planets, you got to do some tricky stuff. But Saturn, you just stop. You just quit. It's a virtue to be able to stop and quit when it's used correctly, right? And that's what a healthy Saturn does. The reason we don't quit, the reason we don't let go of things that aren't right for us, or have, the reason we don't want to give up the shoes that no longer fit us, is because there's a trauma associated with Saturn. There's either been a loss that the person hasn't processed, so they're suffering from a loss that they weren't prepared for, they weren't mature enough for. And that loss has traumatized them, that there's a part of them now that never wants to let go of things. Okay? So if you've had a traumatic loss, it's natural to not want to let go of things. You want to keep the status quo, even if the status quo is not great. All right? The other reason I think that we have these Saturns that just don't want to quit is because we haven't experienced joy. We haven't experienced our Jupiter enough. You know, Jupiter and Saturn are like a pair. You know, I kind of said the Moon and Mercury kind of work together, the Mars and Venus, and Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter's our highest level of fulfillment. It's where we're experiencing life the most fully. It's what we're most good at. It's us being our best selves. Saturn's the opposite of that. Saturn is where life doesn't work. Saturn's where there is no fulfillment, there is no gain, there is no growth. So you stop it. Okay? Jupiter is what is us expressing ourselves as the most of what we are. Saturn is what's not us at all. So when it's time to let go of something, Saturn's saying, this is not you now. You is something else now. Okay? So this has to end, because it's not you now. How long is now? Maybe 5 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe a day, maybe a lifetime. You don't know. Now, when that time comes to say it's over. All right? So, if we don't ever feel like a fulfillment of Jupiter, we're just not ready to let go. You know, Yugeshwar said in the Holy Science that the plan, God's plan for this world, for creation, was for us to come here, have a deep experience, to have a satisfying experience. That once satisfied, we have a peace, and the soul is at a peaceful place and ready to leave Earth. And it has no more attachment because it's had that experience. So it's had the Jupiter experience. So it's ready for the Saturn experience. It's ready to die. It's actually ready for, okay, I'm done. Did that, I'm done. But he says what happens to humans is that humans run around going from here to this and that they never have this deep experience. They never have this experience that they're capable of having. And so they leave unfulfilled. So they have to come back. And they have to come back. And that's what happens. See, when we don't follow our inner voice, we don't have the experience we came down here to have. If we don't have the experience we came down here to have, we have no peace. Nothing feels right. So we're not ready to leave because we want that experience. Okay? So if we're not following the experience, if we haven't followed the experience, or followed our inner voice, our inner guidance system, to an experience of ourselves on this planet, to the healthy expression of ourselves, a dynamic expression of ourselves, a fulfilling expression of ourselves, we just can't be ready for things to end. Okay? We're not ready for life to end, and we're not ready for things to end, because we don't know that the ending of those things doesn't matter. See, the endings of those things only matter because you haven't had your full experience of your Jupiter. When you've had the full experience of your Jupiter, endings are acceptable. Because all these little things we're scared of ending, they're not as good as your Jupiter experience is. Okay? And so, if you've had your Jupiter experience, things can end. You can accept things ending. Not that you don't mourn them or miss them, but you can accept them ending. Because those things were never the greatest experience. It was truly being yourself. Experiencing the feeling of being alive as yourself. That was your greatest experience. And it was better than that experience. And it was better than that vacation. It was better than going to Disneyland and Christmas. Okay? It was better than the things that could possibly leave you. Alright? It's the yardstick. Jupiter is that yardstick. And if that yardstick is not, if you haven't hit your potential of what you can experience, then yes, you don't want to let go of things. Okay? But you still have to. because you don't realize your potential when you're clinging on to things that are shit, which means that aren't part of what you're trying to become. And not only that, see, we become something, it's not supposed to stay the same. We're not here to have a static experience. You know, we have a great experience, and then that experience has to end so we can go on to other experiences. Okay? And those experiences can happen with the same job, in the same profession, in the same city, with the same people. Okay? But there still has to be an ending of those experiences for us to renew ourselves, recollect ourselves, understand what happened, appreciate what happened, and then get back into it in a new way that has some differences to it, that makes it still worthwhile to continue to experience that thing. It allows for change. Okay? We have to break and come back together sometimes, right? So, everything, we need a break from everything in order to continue to appreciate that thing and to continue developing with that thing. There's a point you just simply can't go further today, but you can go further tomorrow. That's why God says it's time to go to bed. But with all things in our life, there's a point you just can't go further with that thing this week. So you'll see it next month and work with it next month and make further progress then. It's really amazing the brain's capacity to do that. How taking a break from something and then reapproaching it always lets us get more out of it. That's like why every time I go back to, all right, I'm going to focus on the planets. Wow, all the new things I learned. I'm like, why? It was so obvious. Why didn't I learn that 20 years ago? Well, because I learned what I learned 20 years ago, then I took a break from the planets, did something else, and I went back to the planets. And after 10, 12 times of doing that over 20 years, every time there's greater discoveries to be made. But if I'd never taken a break, I would have never have learned everything I learned about the planets. Taking a break is a critical part of advancing. Okay, it's just a natural part of the process of moving forward. Healthy Saturn knows when it's time to take a break. Unhealthy Saturn keeps pushing, keeps holding on to, doesn't let it go, and then that's just a waste of energy. And that energy, instead of rejuvenating a person, being applied to some other area of life, is wasted. It is wasted energy. You're never getting it back. When your energy is low, we don't function well, we can't hear our inner voice as well, we get depressed, and we get cranky, we get frustrated more easily. We feel good when we're full of energy. That's what life is about. It's about being full of energy. And following our inner guidance system is really just a way of allowing our energy to flow with the least amount of waste, with the most amount of returns for what is expended, so we have the most energy. And when we have the most energy possible, we feel the best. Okay? Life is about how full of energy you are. It's not about what you have or don't have, or what challenges you have or don't have. It's the energy you have to deal with the things in your life. It's the energy you have to enjoy the things in life. It's the energy you have to deal with the challenges of life. That's what determines how good you feel. I mean, you can be so low on energy, you can have a loved one there and you can't even connect with them because you're just so low on energy, And you wouldn't even know. They'll feel like a nuisance because you're so low on energy. You won't even have the ability to connect. It's about the energy you have to live your life. That's what's important. And the conservation of that, the non-wasting of that, is mostly dependent on Saturn. Okay? Now, Saturn rules our sadness as part of ourself. It rules our sadness. Think about that. We all have sadness as a component of us. So this is a self aspect. This is the part of you that the planets represent. They have nothing to do with what's out there. Saturn represents the sadness you have with you. Okay? Yes, we're born with a part of us that's sad. Of course it is. We got thrown down onto earth, we were whining and dining with God in heaven, and we got kicked out of the big party, right? It's depressing to be separated from God. We all have a sadness with us. Okay? That's fine. It's part of you. A good habit Saturn bears his sadness. He understands that there's an element of sadness to our lives. A bad habit Saturn blames sadness on this and that and that. I'm sad because you won't come visit me. I'm sad because you left me. I'm sad because I don't have a good job. No, you're sad because sadness is a part of us. We have our sadness. If we understand it as our sadness, we work it out. Okay? Saturn's an important planet for being a sannyas, a renunciate. What is a renunciate? A renunciate is basically a person who decided to work out their sadness within themselves. Instead of chasing this and chasing that and chasing that, they're not going to blame their sadness on the things of the world anymore. They're going to tackle it from an inner point of view and reduce their sadness by doing things that cultivate joy. Okay? So, good habit, Saturn, you own your sadness. Bad habit, Saturn, you blame your sadness. Okay? The Datu, let me step back so I don't forget. One of the other deities of Saturn is Brahma, the creator. Okay, now, there's a physical reason for that, and that is that the nerves that leave your brain, that descend into your senses, are the part of the nervous system ruled by Saturn. Now, the nervous system itself is ruled by Mars, but the majority of the nervous system is in your brain. All of the nervous system that leaves your brain is Saturn, and it leaves your brain and ends in your senses, in your eyes, your ears, your nose, and your skin, where you can feel and touch. It's through the illusion created by the senses that this creation even occurs. Our senses tell us a creation is occurring. So on a physical level, Saturn is represented by Brahma because it's our lower nervous system, the nervous system out of our brains, that is giving us this experience of creation. Okay? But more so than that, on another level, as I mentioned, something ending is creative space. Your only commodity, your only goal is to create. We're here to create joy. We're here to create experiences that are joyful and meaningful and purposeful. But we have to create those through following that creative spark of Jupiter. Okay? Saturn gives us the time to do that. Saturn is chronos, time, right? Saturn gives us time to do that. So, to do that, we need time. We have time by letting things out of our space, right? So, when Christmas is over, we have time for something else. When someone says, I'm going to go to work for a day, you have time to yourself, right? So, Saturn literally gives us the creative space to work on our next best masterpiece. Okay? You need time to create, and that's the Saturn factor. And it gives us that time by freeing us up from things that would rob our time. And if we know when it's time for something to stop, great. We'll have the time to do what's really important to us too. Or to do other things that are important to us. But if we don't know when it's time to stop, we'll waste our time. We'll drain ourselves. And we'll get nothing back. We'll go, gosh, I did so much. I beat that horse so hard I got blisters on my hand. And this damn horse has not even gone up 1 inch, up the road 1 inch. You know? That's not the life you want to live. You want every moment to count. And one of the biggest things for every moment to count is when it's time for things to end, let them end. I have an okay Saturn. It's not my worst planet. It's certainly not my best planet. And boy, can I relate to plenty of times where I've kept at something when I should have just quit it, when I should have just stopped. From little tiny things that robbed a few minutes to big things that robbed years, you know. There's times to just stop and let it go, okay? And how can you know those times? Can you figure those times out? No. You only can figure out if you listen to your internal guidance system. With Saturn, that means, are you in the good habit of hearing when your internal guidance system is saying it's over? Or you're in the bad habit of saying, it's over when I say it's over, you know? It's over when my conditioning tells me it's over. It's over when my mind says it's a good time to be over. No, it's over when it's over. And the wisdom of knowing when it's over is profound. I would say if I could have any wisdom, I would say, give me the wisdom to know when it's over. Give me the wisdom to know when to stop. I really consider it the highest wisdom to come from Saturn. Because I think, I look around and I see life, and I see so much, how so much of it is from not knowing when to stop. Okay? Stopping, going to bed, having nothing to say, being stupid, being lazy, a virtue. Okay? When used at the right time. Now, Saturn has the wisdom, the intelligence of being socially senseless, according to Jamie. So there's a crowd of people around, everyone's talking a million, and Saturn's just like, duh, has nothing to say. And you can look at that as a negative thing, that Saturn's just stupid. But no, it's not that. It's because Saturn recognizes that there's simply nothing to say about the situation. What is there to say about most things? Nothing. Saturn just recognizes nothing can be done by talking here. Think about how often talking solved anything, right? Saturn, when you go to the board meeting, the person with the good Saturn is the person who's sleeping. Why? Because he just hustled all night long and solved all these problems in the real world while the board can't wait to talk about them. And he's sleeping because he knows there's no point talking. Talking doesn't work. So it's knowing when not to talk about things. Lots of times we'll see these movies or we'll read a book about this real taciturn character, Something happens to him and he's just quiet. And you're like thinking, dude, just tell them what really happened, Just tell them what they thought they saw really wasn't what was really happening, Just tell them the truth. And they're just like this. They're just quiet, And there's a part of me, because I don't have a great Saturn, that's going, come on, man, you got to just go do this. But this person just stops it. And it just ends. They just let it end. And it could be like the solvable thing. And I've learned to see that kind of quality as sometimes in the right situation as really being a virtue. Sure, your mind can always think about something to talk about, right? It can always think about bullshit to explain and bullshit to share. But when something's over, by definition, there is no more bullshit to share, right? There is no more to say. You don't talk to dead people, do you? You don't really sit on a dead horse and say, giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, do you? So, if every time something was over, we could just know that and go with the flow of that, life would be a lot easier. We'd have less wasted words, less wasted energy, less wasted time, and therefore more time to be fulfilled, more time to have the next experience, more energy to have the next experience, okay? Because we're not tired from screaming at that dead horse to keep running, okay? So he's socially senseless. He just doesn't communicate. He doesn't talk. He's like indifferent to it. Because he knows nothing will be done can be done. So why try? Okay, it's that same theme of Saturn. Let it go. You don't need it. In the kingdom, Saturn represents the servants. Okay? Now, again, we're just so conditioned to think that it's a bad thing to be a servant. It's really interesting when you read these old books and you read things and you get to Saturn, that you just say, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad, it's not good to be that, that's bad, that's bad. Yeah, Saturn's a planet, he's a deity. You're saying there's an aspect of God that is bad, that has bad qualities. No. When we read the book and we understand that every sign, when they give what that Rashi does, that sign does, those are the virtues of that sign. When they talk about the nakshatras, those are the virtues of the nakshatras. Yes, the virtue of Mula is to suck in and destroy. That's a virtue. The virtue of the planets, that's what they're talking about. The virtues of Saturn are virtues. But any planet, any sign, any nakshatra, its virtues are only virtues in the right situation. None of them are virtues in all situations. So the very same for Saturn. So when you read these books, consider these things, these descriptions of these astronomical facts as virtues in the right situation. Okay, like Mercury is fond of humor, that's his virtue. Well, It's not really good to crack jokes at a funeral, right? It's like, well, that's a little inappropriate. There's times where being humorous is not good, okay? And I'm guilty of that, all right? There are times when being charming, being Venus, is not appropriate, okay? There's a time for every planet to be inappropriate. Are you in the habit of using every planet appropriately or not? So being a servant, it sounds like it's not a virtue. It's a virtue to be a servant. If we think of the servant mentality, that's the first thing we have to think about. He's basically a Sudra mentality. Sudra mentality is a mentality of, I'm not going to do anything more than I have to get through life. Today I work just enough to get my food on my table. Why should I do anything more? Doing more would be a waste of time. You know? Doing more than the bare minimum I have to do, it's just a waste of time and energy. Especially energy. So the servant, the idea of the servant is, the servant mentality is, it just does the bare minimum that it needs to. It doesn't have ambitions, it doesn't have inspirations, it doesn't try to win the race. It's conserving its energy. Okay, that's the foundational concept of being a servant. They don't have a lot of pressure. They just have to do the bare minimum. Okay? Now, we always think of servants as being these abused creatures. And that's not really the proper idea of a servant. In ancient India. In modern days, a servant's someone who you work them too hard, you pay them too little, and they're the troubled ones. But no, that's not the forecast idea of the servant or the Sudras. They're the ones, they are respected for the fact that they don't have ambitions to excel, they don't need to change the world. They're just happy to do something so they can make their daily bread and take care of their loved ones. That's a virtue. To only need to do what little you need to do. To not need to get anywhere. In certain situations in our life, just doing what we have to get by is great. And there's lots of things in life that we just need to get by with. Like, when we think of our lives, I remember my sister, and she's been a great sister, so I'm not criticizing her, it's just a story. She was a straight A student. She came home from school and she slammed those books. She was ambitious. She was the king. She was creating her kingdom of good grades, success at school. She was the vice president, then the president of our school. She was super popular. She was an awesome chick, okay? She was like putting all this energy into her school. That was her kingdom, and she really excelled at it. She had lots of friends. She had respect. She had all that good stuff, okay? And she earned it. She worked for it, She wasn't a servant at school. I was a servant at school. I showed up. I paid attention. I did what I was supposed to. I did what I had to get through it. I didn't care what grades I got. I wasn't ambitious. I usually didn't even bring books home, And in my last few years of high school, in fact, I used to use the 5 minutes between class and my lunch break to get all my homework done, and I didn't bring a book home all year long, because I wanted to go home and race bikes, and train on my bike. I wasn't going to go home and, my kingdom was bike racing. I got home and I trained and I studied nutrition and I created my kingdom of being an athlete, okay? School, I was a servant at school. I did what I had to at school. I didn't say, oh, I don't want to do that. I just did it. I got good enough grades. I got a couple of A's. I got 1 C every year. And once I got a D in math. And then I got, never had an F. And then I had lots of B's. And the reason I got a D in math was sort of, not really my fault. One of those funny word things that happened. But I wasn't that invested in it. It wasn't my world. So I was just going to do the bare minimum to get by. See, there's things in your life that you have to do, that you just have to do. But they're not your world. But you still need to do them. That's when you're the servant. That's when you use your Saturn to be a servant. To do the minimum required to get by. Okay? By doing this, I'm not in trouble. Okay? Then when I knew I wanted to be an astrologer, I wasn't really ready to do it. I had to study, right? And so I just got this job. And I didn't care what job it was. I worked it, and I showed up on time. I worked hard when I was there, but I wasn't invested in that job. That job wasn't my life. Studying astrology was my life. Before that was studying martial arts was my life. And I had a shitty job. Make $4.50 an hour, $4.50 an hour. And I went to work. I was always on time. I worked hard. They were so happy with me. I was a great servant, but I wasn't invested in it. It didn't matter to me. So a healthy Saturn knows that sometimes you just have to do something. Do it effectively. Do it efficiently. Do it to your ability and drop it. But you still have to do it. A bad habit Saturn, it's so funny. People with bad habit Saturns can get so much trouble in their lives because the things that don't matter to them, they don't want to take care of them. They don't want to take the trash out. You know? They don't want to clean the house. They don't want to finish high school. Those are all things that you just sort of do. You know, yeah, you're not invested in it, but you need to just do it anyway. You have to clean the house, you got to take the trash out, and you should probably finish high school, you know? So, but a bad habit Saturn, that's when they want to go to sleep. So there's certain things that you might not want, but you still have to do. Are you in the habit of just doing them and getting them done? School for me was a breeze, because I did it at Saturn. I was a servant, I did my job, forgot about it. And I built my other kingdom. My sister, school was important to her. That was her life. She excelled. She had an experience of school that I'll never be able to know. That was her right experience. Okay? So what I'm saying is, we're all living our life, living our sun, finding our Jupiter in one part of life. But there's always the Saturn part. The part that we really don't want to do, we have to do it anyway. Are you going to do it well? If you do it well, and you do it efficiently, and you don't procrastinate, if you're in the habit of doing it well, your life gets better. It's less stressful. I remember other kids that weren't invested in school either. You know, lots of them weren't invested in school. They never did their homework. At the last minute, they tried to crash and get, so they crash study so they could, pass a test. Their parents are nagging them. So they have all this stress in their life. I never had stress. I did my homework right when I was supposed to. I never studied for any test. Why? Because I did my homework right when I was supposed to. I was already ready for the test by the time the test came up. You know? So see, if you take care of the things as you need to, the little things, they don't pile up into this big monster that feels overwhelming. If you clean your house regularly, you take your trash out regularly, you do your homework regularly, you go to your job regularly, you don't fall behind and get buried under debt and bills and trash and stress. Okay? With the bad habit Saturn, you might not do those things correctly. And so you'll fall behind, you'll slip behind, and the trash will pile up, the debt will pile up, the stress will pile up. And that stress robs you of energy again. Saturn's just about being efficient. My life I'll waste less energy if I do my homework every day than if I try to crash study for a test every 2 weeks. Okay? So that's the part of being the servant for Saturn. So recognize where you're a servant in your life and you just need to do it and get it done with. And where you're truly invested in what you're really living for. There's always a part of your life where you're a Saturn. You'll never escape being a servant. In my life, I have it very, very good professionally, but every day there's a part of my life that this is part of the work that I just have to do. It's not the inspiring part, it's not the part that nourishes me, it's not the part that feeds me, it's the part that needs to get done, and if not, it'll pile up into a nightmare that will hurt me, okay? So you're in the habit of taking care of the things that need to be taken care of that you don't want to. That's really a good servant, good habit Saturn. All right, the last thing here is the taste of Saturn. It's astringent. Astringency is not an actual taste, meaning we don't have taste buds for astringency. Taste is the sensation of cold on us. So something we taste as a cool flavor, like wintergreen, if we put it on our skin, it'll also feel cool. All right, it's a sensation on our skin of coolness. It's the opposite of pungent, which is a sensation of heat on our skin or on our tongue, which is ruled by the sun, right? So the idea of Saturn, there's a coolness to it. There's a coolness. You're relaxed to it. You're not getting all fired up and excited and inspired with it. It's a coolness. And astringent taste, what it does, it shrinks things. It reduces the blood flow. You take astringent herbs and you'd use astringent medicines when you want to withdraw energy and you want to withdraw the life force from an area of your body. Okay? So Saturn's this idea of withdrawing the life force. And then when that happens, it's cold. Withdrawing the energy. Putting energy in, which is the sun, is heat. Withdrawing the energy is cold. It's astringent. So, are we approaching the right things with coolness, with simplicity, with matter-of-factness, with a cool head, without inspiration? We're not supposed to be inspired about everything. We're not supposed to get thrilled about everything. Some things we just do coolly, you know. You're not attached to the result. You're not investing your life in it, but you have to do it anyway. So you have a cool approach. You're withdrawing your life from it, but doing it anyway. And that might sound like a bad thing to do, but it's not. Because doing those things lets your body and system recharge. So for instance, say I'm busting out Jaimini Sutras all day long, and I'm working hard, I'm really excited about trying to crack some new sutras. There's a point I just can't proceed anymore. So then if I go be the servant and I clean my house, I'm not really inspired and using that excited, inspirational energy to clean my house. I'm just coolly, relaxedly cleaning my house. I'm in a cool space. And that's letting my consciousness renew itself. That's letting my brain to refresh itself. And then I can go back to my Jaimini Sutras and do better. All right? So doing these things that you're not passionate about gives you time for your passion to freshen up. Because when you're passionate, you use energy. When you do things coolly, you're conserving energy. Saturn's all about the conversation of energy. It's all about excreting and letting go of what you don't need. Okay? But the biggest part about it is knowing when to let things go. Knowing when it's time to stop. That's the healthy habit Saturn. A bad habit Saturn is it's always time to stop or it's never time to stop. No. Good habit is it's time to stop in this right situation. It's not time to stop yet. But it has to be correct to help you achieve your Jupiter ultimately. Because Jupiter's not achieved like this. We go through cycles. So we go through cycles and we hit Saturn regularly and have to let go of things regularly. You know, things are ending regularly. And if we hold on to grief and shock and can't let go of things when they leave us, we're not welcoming the space to discover our Jupiter. So there is an element of surrender and recognition that things end because there's something else for me. But bad habit Saturn hasn't experienced that. They haven't been trained to know that when something ends, there's always something else to take that space. Not necessarily the same thing or even a remotely similar thing, but something else. One door opens, closes, other doors open. That's how it works. Okay? All right, enough on Saturn. We'll talk about the details of Saturn when we get to the Vashtas a lot. One of the things that is tough on Saturn is that Saturn has more enemy planets than any other planet, which means that Saturn is the most common planet to have in bad shape in your chart. So if we take 100 people and we see who has which planet in a bad shape the most, it'll always be Saturn. There's more Saturns that are bad running around out there than any other planet. Just, it's mathematical. Saturn has more enemies. He has the most enemies, so he's going to be in the bad Lagitati Vashta more than any other planet. That's why I said, if I can have one wisdom, it's the wisdom of knowing when to stop. Because that's what we don't know as a species. We just don't know when to stop. We don't know when to stop eating. We don't know when we eat so much that the food is no longer even nourishing us, it's hurting us. We don't know how to stop, you know. People don't know how to stop making money. They don't know when to stop almost everything. It's like a plague, these bad Saturns. It's just a common part. The wisdom of knowing when to shut up, the wisdom of knowing when to stop. It could save us all a lot. All right, enough on that. One very important thing that I need to touch upon again, I started touching on where I said that Jupiter and Saturn are like this pair, in a sense, or these polar opposites in this context, where Jupiter's what we're good at, Saturn's what we're bad at. You know, Jupiter's what we're here to do, Saturn's what we're not here to do. So you can see a good habit Jupiter does what it's here to do. And what it's here to do, it's good at. So it's going to have a good life with all the boons that come with a good life. Respect of others, success, and resources, okay? Saturn's what we're bad at. It's what we're not here to do. So if we try to do it, we'll only do it badly. If we have a bad habit, Saturn, and we're doing those things, we're in the habit of doing what we're bad at. We're in the habit of doing what's going to prove to us that we're unlovable, that we are unworthy, and we won't get the financial returns, the recognition, the respect, because we're doing what we're bad at. So all we're going to do is get blame and guilt and, blame, because we're doing something that's not right. So these two planets, Jupiter and Saturn, they really just contrast the difference between, are you doing what you're good at, or are you doing what you're bad at? Between these two planets, we find this out. Are you doing what's right for you or wrong for you? Both these planets work together to decide that. And here's the scary thing. There's different strengths for planets. When it comes to Jupiter and Saturn, one of the strengths that's really important is the strength bearing on your environment. So literally, the environment you're born into has so much impact upon us if we're choosing to do what we're good at or bad at. That environment sets the stage for whether we're going to, pursue things that we're not, that aren't right for us to do, or we're going to pursue the things that are right for us to do. It's really interesting. In my life yesterday, on the last video on Jupiter, I talked about how my mom, our parents neglected us, gave me a lot of time to explore things and follow my inspirations. And I was using that word neglect as a joke, And it's really interesting to watch and see how our good and bad habits got developed. Like one of the things my mom said a few times, when we would ask for, can we do this? And we asked her, can we do some really bad things? She just said, you're good kids. I know you'll do the right thing. That's what she would say. Like about things that most parents would have slapped their kids over. So like one time, me and my friend, we were 8 years old, and we were at the store and looking at the toys, and at the convenience store. Right next to the toy section, here's like a half rack of toys, was the tobacco section. So there's all this chewing tobacco over here, and all the toys over here. That's the 70s, right? Now tobacco is locked up behind the customer service counter. But in the good old days, your toys are right by your tobacco. So we're checking out the toys, and next thing you know, we're checking out the tobacco. And my friend's like, that's chewing tobacco. You put it under your mouth. It's really supposed to be good. And we're like, huh. His mom came around the corner and saw us looking at that, and we go, can we get some chewing tobacco? She said, yeah, you can get some. And we're 8 years old. But we need to ask Ernst's mom. So we asked Ernst's mom. My mom just said that. Yeah, you can try it if you want. You're a good person. I know you'll do the right thing. So we bring the chewing tobacco home. And me and my friend and that can of Skull, we knew that we were the coolest 8-year-olds on earth that day. But the next day, I had myself chew, and I vomited all over the place. I got so sick and nauseous, I just vomited all over the place. And I was 8, and I was at least 10 years before I could even think of tobacco, not to mention smell it without feeling nausea. So I was never tempted ever again to indulge in any tobacco products. But that was my mom. Sure, you can do that. You're a good person. I know that, you'll do the right thing. And I could tell you all kinds of worse stories about the things she said we could do growing up, But the things, she did that with, I never abused them. I never approached them wrongly. Just like my mom said, I was a good person, and she knew I would do the right thing. It's those type of situations that give us our good habit Jupiters. A parent saying, you're good, I trust you. Wow, that is where my good parts of my Jupiter developed. The good habit part of my Jupiter was activated with those words of my mother. Then I have other planets that have problems. And my mom said other things that got those planets activated towards their bad habits. Now again, those good and bad habits were already mine. I was born with them, but our parents activated. They flicked the switches back on. Like we're born, the whole circuit board is off. Then their parents go and they start flicking these switches. The good switch, bad switch, they're flicking the switches on. They're not to blame. They're just the switch operators this lifetime. The good and bad habits we get activated in our life through our parents happen, or the good and bad habits we died with in our last life. The wounds we died with in our last life, the feelings of hate and and distaste we have about ourselves are the very same ones our parents awaken within us in this lifetime. Okay? Or activate. So, Jupiter is really our ability to do what's us. Saturn's our ability to not do what's not us. And between those two planets, those two heavy players, okay, those two slow-moving planets, they really make a big deal in finding our lives. Okay? And they're dependent on that early environment. The environmental factors influence them. They really, really do. It's that idea, if you're a fish trying to climb a tree, you'll always think you're a failure. Well, what if you are a fish living in an environment where there's no water but only trees? Then you've got no choice but to try climbing those damn trees. And that literally happens in this world, where people are born with gifts and talents that are really them, and they're born in a school, like say you've got this artistic talent, but you're born in a school system that doesn't do art. Your parents aren't artistic. Art is not considered a great profession in your culture. It's considered something poor people do for generations, for a few pennies. Then how does that environment support who you are? It really doesn't. Okay? So, the environment has a big impact. But at the end, if we're born in a bad environment that doesn't support what we are and supports what we're not, supports our Saturn bad habits to indulge in and pursue what we're not, it's because that's our issue. It's not the environment's fault, but the environment sets the stage for that. Which means, yes, you need a whole new world. You need a whole new universe, a whole new space that you can start doing what you're actually good at. You're the fish that needs to leave the forest and go to the ocean. Okay? So it takes longer if your Jupiter and Saturns are troubled. It does. They're the slow-moving planets. If these planets are troubling you, it does take longer to find out what you're good at. You find out what you're good at if you're doing what you're not good at by failures. And by failure, I mean lack of happiness as a result of doing what you're not good at. Okay? So, a bad habit, Saturn spends too much energy doing what's not them. Okay? Which means things that won't work, that won't provide. And a good habit, Saturn, only does the minimal amount of those things necessary. Because there's some things you have to do that are not you. That's where you're the servant. A good habit, Jupiter, is inspired, follows its inspirations, follows the lightning sparks that say, this is you. Every time the lightning flashes, it gives you a glimpse of who you are. It gives you a glimpse of your potential. A good habit, Jupiter, follows that glimpse. A bad habit, Jupiter goes, nope, lightning struck, but I'm doing something else. Okay? It's between Jupiter and Saturn that we end up either having a good life, where we're being what we are and doing what we're good at, or having a bad life, where we're trying to be what we're not, doing what we're not good at, and it's not working at all. Okay? So remember that contrast. It's really interesting how these with the system of arrangements coming from Leo and Cancer flowing down to Capricorn and Aquarius, how we do have these planets that are sort of contributing to a similar thing. Okay? All right, enough on that. Thank you.